Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. I'm gonna say something that I know is gonna strike some people the wrong way, but I just gotta be honest. Allies have abandoned us, man. The so-called allies that black people supposedly have abandoned us. They've never cared about our issues or our concerns. They cared about how they can siphon off our energy, because everyone knows that we're the ones who fight white supremacy. They're the ones. Everyone knows that we're the ones who fight injustice. Everyone knows that every social justice movement out there is built off of our backs, much like the country is built off of our backs. But see, when it comes to us, we always have to share credit with other people. See, other people always want to piggyback off of what we do. Other people always want to tell us how to fight our battles, and yet they never want to take the same risk. Have you noticed that? I've noticed that. Have you noticed how people go out of their way to lecture black people, tell us what to do, tell us how to fight our battles, tell us how to look at things, how to look at racism, right? They always tell us how to actually respond to racism. But then you ask them, what are you doing to sacrifice to fight racism? And what you notice is that there's always this long silence. Sacrifice? Yeah, sacrifice. Sacrifice. What have you sacrificed to fight against white supremacy? What have you sacrificed to fight against police corruption? What have you sacrificed to fight for what you say you believe in? Because see, even the Bible shows us, even the Bible, people who believe in the Bible, it says faith without works is useless. Pretty much what the Bible says. So it's not enough to just believe. You also have to have works that actually go along with it. And what I find so interesting is that people tend to look at their activism much like people treat Christianity. They leave their activism like they leave that Bible on the back seat of their car. Or they leave their activism in the same place that they leave that freaking Bible, somewhere in a deep dark hole collecting dust. That is what people think their activism should be. There should be some works and some sacrifice that comes with the actions, with the claims. Because you see, the reason why it has to be that way, so-called white allies, okay? The reason why it has to be that way is because you can walk away from this. You can be white. We don't have that option. You can walk away at any point. So no matter how much you think you have empathy for the black edition, let me tell you, there is no way that you can truly understand where we come from. So why are you acting like it? Why do you pretend that suddenly, because you see one person be treated like George Floyd just once, just one person, suddenly you think that you understand the black condition? Just because you experienced injustice one time, suddenly you feel that you can start comparing your issues to ours. Right? What I don't want is a bunch of allies telling me what the black condition is, or telling me how to fight. Because at the end of the day, the person who has the most skin in the game should be the one who speaks the loudest. Now, with that being said, that should be a simple thing to understand, right? Because you understand, you would never go to a class about pregnancy as a man and start lecturing a bunch of women who are pregnant, because you don't have the same skin in the game, right? So how do you then come into a black space, come lecturing black people, when you understand that you can walk away and be white? No, no. Your opinion should match your sacrifice. That's a simple concept. Everyone understands that, right? Simple concept. You pay the cost to be the boss, right? How can you look at a worldwide scenario where black people are disproportionately the homeless? The sixth leading cause of us leaving the planet Earth are the police in the U.S. Banks discriminate. Politics. You have politicians who discriminate. Look, the L.A. City Council showed you that. You have police who target and profile us, judges who over sentence us. You have the most exonerated people disproportionately in the country are black people. Did you actually know that? The Innocence Project told us that. They actually provided data on that. So how in the world do you have that many scenarios facing one people? And I didn't even name all the issues. I didn't even get to healthcare and employment. Just those issues alone. Do you feel like you could come up to a black person and then subtly tell them about how they got to calm down or how to fight or how to react to that? There are white people who have done horrible stuff as a reaction for less. For less. For less. And you know it. You know it. What kind of mindset would you be in? Would you be in a mindset wanting to be lectured to? Would you want to hear someone tell you about your struggle as if they could truly understand? See, empathy is not trying to find a comparable thing so that you can compare it to something else. Empathy, in case some of you don't realize it, that means sometimes you may have to just listen and understand. And not everything is meant for you to share in. Not everything is meant for you to have some great input in. Not everything is meant for you to try to find an equivalent of. That way you can say, hey, I'm just like you. When you understand that just because of how you look, that can never be the case. Has been the case for hundreds of years, and you know that. You know that. There's people who are still alive who went through the civil rights era, man. You know that. So why are we going through all these games? I just did a video. I just reported on the fact that the U.S. Embassy in the Dominican Republic has told black Americans, black citizens, and even Haitians that the government there is targeting people because they're black. They're trying to target Haitian people, so they're targeting everyone who's black. That was just reported by our own U.S. Embassy. And yet you have people here who are going to pretend like they have some kind of comparable experience. You have people here who are going to pretend like just because they experience injustice one time, that suddenly that means that you can compare your struggle to someone that's like me, whereas there's a lot of places around the world that I can't even go to because of the color of my skin. In fact, I know the Dominican Republic I couldn't go to because they would detain me because I'm black and for no other reason. And you're going to pretend like you have a comparable struggle to that. You're going to pretend like you have a comparable struggle to that. See, that's where we get into the problem with fake white allies. This is where we get into the problem of we don't want to listen to them. Because here's the thing. If the fake white allies spent the same amount of time and attention going after the racist people, there wouldn't be any more racist people. Would there? Of course there wouldn't. And we all know this. And the thing is, as soon as I say that and you start deflecting, that's when I just entrench even further. If you start conceding things, right, it wouldn't be so bad. But it takes so much to convince people of simple truths. Like with George Floyd. That situation did not have to happen. That did not have to happen. There were white women coming forward about Derek Chauvin. But black people in particular were complaining about it. And unfortunately, because there's a bunch of racist white people who will support any police officer, doesn't really matter. Doesn't really matter whose victim is. That's the other thing about white supremacy. It targets poor white people too, because again, white supremacy always try to raise the cream to the top, as they say. But with that being said, had people listened to us about Derek Chauvin, you could have avoided the whole George Floyd thing. But because people have this knee-jerk reaction to just resist black people, no matter how much good we've done for this country, because of that knee-jerk reaction, we had to pay how much money in damages, court cases, court proceedings, the whole culture change. Was it worth it? No. If he was a bad cop, he should have been gone, right? And if he should have been gone, then you have to concede that there's a problem with policing, right? And no, we're not going to downsize the problem. There's a major problem with policing to the point where they shouldn't be trusted until it's fixed, right? If you can't concede that, then we can't even have a conversation. But see, for most white people, that's where it just ends. It wouldn't matter how bad it is. It wouldn't matter. They're always gonna try to give white supremacy an out. Just concede. So you go on the internet and say the most ridiculous stuff anyways, right? So say this right here. Okay, you're right. And I'm just going to end it there. You're right. Say that. But you can't do it. You can't do it because I'm black. I'm a black man. And white people can't accept it whenever a black person says the blatant truth, even if it's for their own benefit. Even for their own benefit. They won't listen. Let me give you a prime example. The country's first paramedics and EMTs, and by the way, if anyone doubts this, I'm just going to ban you from the chat. But the first paramedics in this country were actually black people. They're called Freedom House, right? And white society resisted them so hard for no reason. For no reason. Even though they were right. Because at one point in this country, you didn't just go to a hospital. There was no such thing as like a paramedic per se. You used to get put in the back of a paddy wagon, and I can tell you for a fact, because I've actually decided to go and research that, and that's our medical history is quite fascinating. Let me tell you, it was not as high tech as you might think it is. You know, hand washing for a surgeon is actually relatively a recently new invention. I'm just going to tell you, you'd be surprised at what you'll find, but. It was actually black people who part of this organization called Freedom House as an actual award-winning documentary about this. And a lot of people don't know this. And the Black Panther Party even tried to tell people, hey, we need health care. We need to actually care about people's health in the community. It wasn't just about feeding people or going against the cops. It was also about health care, you know, that kind of stuff, and actually campaigning for health care for all citizens. And healthcare, as I'm using it with the whole paramedic thing and the Black Panthers, I'm using that as a blatant example of how black people tried to make the country better, and yet because of white stubbornness, it couldn't happen. It couldn't happen because of white stubbornness. Another prime example, right? So African Muslims named the Moors. They were Africans. And they went over to Spain, into Europe, and they were modernizing it. They were introducing things like medicine, things like, culture, music, a lot of things. And what we were finding, if you look through the actual historical and archaeological record from the Smithsonian Museum, there's actually a whole display about it. What you'll find is that the Spaniards, they weren't known to wash. Let's just say that. In fact, some of the kings and queens back then, they were known to brag about not washing. There's some who are relatively famous for it. relatively famous. And so with that being said, when the Moors came over to Spain, they introduced the idea of personal hygiene, essentially. Okay, and this is why when many of the European settlers, when they would go into other countries, they would notice that there was a lot of disease that would come with them because those people didn't exactly believe in personal hygiene. It wasn't just the black people who said this. Also, it was Native Americans too. They also said it. You go ask any Native American tribe, they'll also say the exact same thing. The exact same thing. In fact, the early settlers who came into to what you know as the United States of America, when they first arrived here, Native Americans they noted this. They said those people just don't wash. Those colonizers they don't actually wash. So I'm just saying what you're gonna find is that throughout world history, black people have tried to give white people good advice, try to actually improve society, and because of white resistance, we couldn't do it. We couldn't get it done. You look at healthcare. The freaking Black Panthers been said we need healthcare. That was their whole platform. That was a big part of their platform, right? If you look at you look at the Black Panthers, right? They literally say, "Hey, we need to have an apparatus so that everyone can actually eat." That's why they started the free food program and the free breakfast program. WIC is actually based on what the Black Panthers did. And a lot of people don't know. There's a R&B singer named Shaka Khan. She's very, very famous. People don't know that when she was 16 years old, she was actually a Black Panther, and she started her own free breakfast program at 16 years old. A lot of people don't actually know that, but if you look it up, it's actually true. Um, the Black Panthers told people, "Hey, nutrition is a big thing," because the reason why they actually started the free food program, it was started out as a give me a second as a free breakfast program, right? They did it for kids. Kids were going to school, and they were noticing that kids they weren't performing in school well, so they actually provided free breakfast for those kids. And what they were noticing over time was that they were noticing that the grades were actually improving. So all the kids needed was just something to eat. Something as simple as that. And see, that's what I'm talking about. The work. See, like I said towards the beginning of the stream, it's not enough to you to be an ally and just profess what you believe. It's the work and the sacrifice that comes with it. Right? And the Black Panthers, they didn't care if you were white, black, Asian, Hispanic. It didn't matter. They fed you anyways. They gave you clothes. They gave you health care. They didn't care. Because to them, if you were in need, that was good enough. And that is another example of how black people tried to improve society, and yet what did white resistance do? You destroyed the Black Panthers. You put a bunch of ops and infiltrators and freaking informants in the party, so much so to the point where you have white Black Panthers now. You have a whole White Panther party, but now they want to be Black Panthers because, like I always say, you can't just have black people can't have anything to themselves. They joined in, and now all of a sudden the whole organization is corrupt, compromised. Our leader's gone. It's just it never fails. We started Black Wall Street as the example of what the racist white Republican usually says. Well, why don't you just pull yourself up by the bootstraps? Black Wall Street was that. What did you do? You destroyed it. You destroyed it. When you told us to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps and just start a business, we did that in Levy County, Florida. If you don't understand what happened there, why don't you go and watch the movie Rosewood? That movie is starring Don Cheadle, Ving Rhames, and John Voight. It was a story about how one white woman accused one black man named Jesse Hunter of one thing that we don't even know if it's true or not. But a whole black town got burned down, and that black town had the equivalent of over $1 billion worth of wealth. That's why the state of Florida, for the first time in American history, paid out money due to racial violence. For the first time. We tried to make things better. We tried to do what you say. We tried. We tried. And what do you do every time? So this is why we don't want to hear your advice, white ally. This is why. Because even when we do what you say, the results are the same, white ally. So stop lecturing us. We don't want to hear about how you think. Well, if you just do this or you just do it this way, stop. Stop. It doesn't matter how we fight our struggle. It doesn't matter how we react. It doesn't matter how we feel, because it didn't matter how Breonna Taylor felt. She was sleeping. It didn't matter how Rayshard Brooks felt. He was in his car, not bothering a soul. Didn't matter how Tamir Rice felt. He was a little boy with a toy gun. Didn't matter how Philando Castile felt. Didn't matter. So all that advice you've given us, white ally, so-called white ally, would you give it to them too? No, because the results for them were exactly the same. So what the hell is the point in even listening? Before you lecture us, why don't you give some of that energy to some of your racist white relatives who you know are racist, but you won't say anything about because it's too easy to lecture us. Even at our best, we are treated as if we are at our worst. So what is the point, I ask you? Even when I, as a multiple-time combat veteran, a former law enforcement officer turned whistleblower, I'm going against the cops now. Even at my best, I was all-American. I did everything the right way. And how did you still treat me? The same way. Everybody gets their wake-up call. I'm no exception. I'm no exception. Let me give you another exception, another example. Carl Cavalier was a law enforcement officer who came forward about what happened to this black man named Ronald Green. And it turns out these white police officers assaulted Ronald Green, and that's why Ronald Green is no longer with us. Carl Cavalier was immediately demonized. Immediately. He did the right thing. And it didn't matter. It didn't matter. Because in the end, even if you are Captain America, even you can be a literal superhero, and it won't matter. That's the problem, that these white people out here who want to come lecture us, want to come give us advice, want to come tell us what to think. That's the part they're not getting. That even if we follow all your advice, will that change anything? Will it even make anything better? Probably not. Because when you're black, it's just a crapshoot as to whether or not you're going to walk outside that door and come back home. This is a crapshoot. It won't matter. So all your lectures, all your advice, all your well wishes, all your fake concern and your fake support, we see right through it for what it is. We see right through it for what it is. You are white supremacy by another name, and that other name is complacency. See, let me explain something to you. There's two parts of white supremacy. There's your full bore types. There's your more colorful types, your more openly spoken types, the down south types. But then you have the more northern racist types. And let me tell you how they work. They work in a very similar way. They work in concert with white supremacy, but they work in a way to make you comfortable. They are the Barack Obama, right? They are the Barack Obama of white supremacy. They are there to convince you that Things have gotten better, guys. Right? Things have gotten better, guys. Guys, things have gotten so much better. Listen, we voted for Obama twice. Hey, guys, listen. We legalized here, guys. We vote Democrat, so we're not racist. But then the LA City Council scandal happened, and that just erased all those notions, right? Because then, if you're telling me you can't be racist, then why would they? Why did I hear what I heard from Los Angeles? And if that happened in Los Angeles, then that means that all the claims that black people have been making in New York, right, and in Portland, and I know in Portland, in Washington State, and other parts of California, and all over the blue states, that's all true too. Then, right? Because you told us that for the longest time, what was happening in LA, what was clearly happening, we now know that was absolutely the actual truth. So now we know that to be the case. So why is it that people have this belief that you're going to just come lecture black folks, tell us how to feel about our struggle, tell us how to fight our struggle, tell us how to react to things, knowing that all this stuff is going on, and we understand that it's happening in your blue states, and yet you've done nothing about it. Before you lecture the victims of something, and you know perpetrators are out there, realize that you may have your priorities messed up. Perhaps if you want understanding and you want us to kind of listen to you, it has to first start with you. I think that's fair given the history of the country. And when we say listen, you notice how I say, just like the Bible says, faith without works is kind of useless. You want me to listen to you? That's cool. I will hear your counter opinion when you fix a problem first. See how that works? That's reciprocal. But white supremacy and white people in this country don't work that way. They want to lecture black folks, tell us how to feel. They'll give reparations to every other community out there except us. Except us. To every other community out there except us. And then tell us when we ask for tangibles for ourselves, we're being selfish. We're being selfish. Interesting. The slaves who built your country, who are responsible for every single industry you can think of, the backbone of it. The backbone of it. You're going to tell us how to feel about things, how to look at things. Let me explain something to you, people in the northern states and fake allies and blue states. We see through you. We understand what you are. It wasn't the Republicans who were trying to cancel Kyrie Irving. It wasn't Republicans trying to cancel Kanye West. It wasn't the Republicans who really tried to cancel Whoopi Goldberg or Tracy Morgan or even Dave Chappelle. You remember the whole thing when he was getting canceled off of Netflix? It wasn't right-wing people who was doing that. We see through you now, fake white ally. We see through you. We see you as the new face of white supremacy because we understand and can recognize what a right-wing white supremacist is. We can see it because they're loud. They're out there. We know we know what Republicans are, right? We know what they are because they make it very clear. The problem with left-wingers and Democrats and fake allies and fake white allies who just post Black Lives Matter one time, now they're no longer racist. The problem with them is that they're not as open as Republicans. See, this is why a lot of black people, they will vote Democrat, but then when they start talking, they'll sound Republican. It's only because Republicans are just a little bit more honest. They're not good people. I'm not saying that they're great. I'm just saying they're more honest than what they are. Because black people know they don't like us and they act like they don't like us. They don't leave it up to chance. But the problem with Democrats and the problem with the left wing is the problem with the fake white allies is that you can never tell. You can never tell. You can never tell. And that's why the LA City Council got away with what they got away with for the longest time. Do you understand that was the real story behind all that? The anti-black racism was just obvious. That was just the cream on the crop. But the thing is that when you look at the LA City Council scandal, right, and when you really think about it, what it actually symbolizes is the fact that these blue states were always racist. They never liked black people. That's the thing that people should have gotten away from that. That was the main takeaway, is that it don't matter, right? It don't matter what state you're in. It don't matter what party you're in. Everybody is on team white supremacy, and all of them are against black people. That's just the thing. So black people have waken up to that, and that's why I was telling the fake white allies. I said, you guys might want to back off of Kyrie Irving. You might want to back off of freaking Kanye West. You might want to back off of black folks. You might want to calm down because you're awakening us. But they didn't want to listen. And do you want to know why? Because it's exactly what I said before with the Black Panthers. They tried to warn you about feeding people, about health care, about all kind of stuff. And white America didn't listen then. I was trying to be the voice of reason, saying, hey, let's back off of freaking Kyrie, right? But they wouldn't do it. And then they actually awakened black America. So white America has a serious problem, even especially the fake white allies and the liberals and Democrats and the left wingers. They have a real problem with being warned about something and then ignoring it. They're being warned about something and then totally ignoring it. You know, it's just, it is amazing to me how that works out. And the best part about white supremacy is the way that it actually morphs. See, people think that I come to a blue state and I'm never gonna meet a racist person ever again. Let me tell you something. I went to a grocery store. So it's a Fred Meyer, and they actually sell like electronics and furniture and everything else. So I went there to go buy a bookshelf. I walk into the Fred Meyer, and a white woman immediately eyes me and does this here directly at me. And I'm looking behind me. I'm like, what the hell? And she's looking directly at me. She starts following me throughout the whole store for no reason now. I asked one of these store workers, hey, I need a bookshelf. Can I get like a dolly, So they go get a freaking dolly. I get the actual bookshelf down. And this white woman's acting like she's actually an employee. Acting like she's actually an employee. And the whole time, she's following me around. And coming to find out, she's not an actual employee. She just wanted to follow me around. That just happened like 2 days ago. And that is crazy. That is crazy. That is crazy. And I've had some crazy experiences, and I'm from the deep South, South Carolina, right? South Carolina, which is crazy to me. I've never seen anything like that, and I'm in Washington State. People don't realize, right, how crazy that is. So I come from South Carolina, and the sheriff of the year for the United States for 2021 was Leon Lott in Richland County, South Carolina. That dude was sheriff of the year for the entire country, right? Right? The entire country. And he covers up horrible things that happens to children, because that's what happened to me as a freaking kid. That's why I went into law enforcement to try to change things, hoping that maybe I can be the hero that I never got. Well, I tried to become a whistleblower when I went into law enforcement, and then I immediately experienced retaliation. So then, long story short, let's just fast forward. I'm in Washington State now. My current sheriff is Ed Troyer. Ed Troyer, his criminal trial began on Monday because he's on trial because he lied on a black newspaper carrier claiming that the black guy was going to hurt him, even though that never happened. And that's according to the Tacoma police. The police are calling the sheriff a liar. The police are saying that. That's why he's on trial. Okay. So, do you understand what I just told you? I can't trust a sheriff on the East Coast or West Coast. But you have white allies who want to come lecture me. Think about that for a second. Think about my life story that I just told you. Something that happened to me as a kid because of police. And because white people refuse to accept any accountability with police, I had to simply go into law enforcement to try to force change. And when I tried to force change, I got burned for it. And that's why I'm here now. But you want to lecture me and tell me how to fight my fight? How dare you? How dare you? How dare you? You ain't fought. You ain't fought nearly as hard as I have. White ally. You ain't sacrificed what I have sacrificed, white ally. You haven't paid the cost, white ally. So when you have, you get back to me, white ally. That's all I gotta say, man. I'm out. Y'all be safe. Until next time, horns up, peace out, good night, and good luck.